What is a red flag from an employer that people might not immediately recognize as a red flag? A couple old senior partners, lots of young employees and nothing in between. That means there's no opportunity to move up, they can't get people to stay, and can't get lateral transfers. They work young folks for as long as they can, and the young folks leave once they figure out the company sucks. That's a fantastic distinction, and one I was coming in here to make, albeit for different reasons. It could also mean a couple of other things, none of them are good. Their processes are so unique/non-transferable, they hire young out of college because anyone established in the industry would reject them. They hire young because the pay is shit. They hire young because they assume young folks won't know any better. Everybody is very young in a very old company. I'm working in a company that's decade old, but everyone has been in the company for about 4 to 5 months max. Only the HR has been there for 7 to 8 years. And honestly, with the shit they are pulling off, I can see why people don't stay even to complete their probation period. Give us the hot goss, internet stranger. Don't leave us hanging. Because they ask the employees to do stuff that's not at all their job. For instance, I am in digital team, but they want me to perform the tasks that a salesperson would do. And they don't even provide the training for it. My rule is I'll accept oddball responsibilities. Things that are unusual and infrequent, which require problem solving and improvisation. It's what I'm good at and what I like. No, I will not take on another rote task that needs to get done every day. Right? I'm cool with helping out. But asking me change my job responsibilities to something that I've been refused to be trained for is just so fucking infuriating. Had an interview somewhere, they offered 20 to 23 starting. Being new in this field, when they asked how much I was expecting to be paid, I said, well, you guys are offering 20 to 23 starting, and being new in the field, I think 20 would be good. Their response was, oh, well, that's kind of a red flag for us. Usually when someone starts with us, they'll say, I'll take $17 until I can prove to you that I'm worth the $20, so you'll see why we're hesitant. My response then, why would you offer $20 at your low end? I didn't get a call back. I can't imagine they would actually be live someone would buy that. It sounds so phony. Thing is, I could believe it. I think they're an incredibly abusive company that was trying to hone in on someone with high desperation and low self-esteem who'd go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I'll take $14 an hour, that is, if you have me, please, I didn't mean to cheat you, Mr. Boss, sir, I'd never do that to you, sir. Then they'd hire you on for $9 an hour and have crazy impossible demands that they coach you into attempting with. I mean, you don't have to do it, but well, if you're not a team player. Or, I guess we were right about you. This is a flag so red, that it's dripping blood. They probably wanted to put in a lower offer before the interviewee has a chance to mention the advertised pay, then give them that whole spiel about proving themselves first. No fucking way the person being interviewed just lowballs themselves and sucks the employer's dick about how the need to prove themselves first, lol. When you don't get a review until you ask for a raise. Then, all of a sudden, your work is being questioned and you're being berated. They claim that overtime isn't mandatory and workers stay longer by choice. Our deadlines make no sense. We work hard, but play hard around here. The job title says they're looking to hire rock stars. Or ninjas or gurus or any other dumb buzzwords. I've seen superheroes a ton recently. Vigilantes don't get paid, they do it for the way it makes them feel. When they refuse to tell you what your starting salary would be, or when they just avoid the question altogether. Like I didn't apply to the job to be a part of some family work culture, I came here to get a job and be paid. Is money the only reason you work? Yes. Yes it is. Tell them no, but I'm really passionate about the possibilities that having money opens up. Like paying my rent and not starving. I'm really passionate about not starving to death. I've actually used this in more than one interview. It gets a laugh, I get a job. Asking if I plan to have children in the interview, I was 19. I don't think an interview is the proper place to birth a child anyway. Do you have any other talents? Lies down and goes into labor. Asking if you are somebody who's willing to put in the time to make sure deadlines are met/work is done, or if you're the type of person who leaves when the workday is finished. This is generally corporate speak for we will be forcing you to work unpaid overtime. So you don't hire enough staff, or you don't manage your time effectively? Oh, I love answering that question in interviews. I've given up trying to spin it as a positive. Them, do you like finishing tasks, or do leave when the workday is finished? Me, if you were to ring a lunch bell right now, I'd leave this interview. I think the diplomatic response would be along the lines of, there has to be a balance. If missed targets are normal working practice, and crunch periods are an expected part of the operation, there is a managerial failing that needs addressing rather than people on the coalface picking up the slack. However, for genuine unforeseen crises, of course putting in extra effort is the right thing to do. You can usually use that to elicit more information from the interviewer. If they say yeah, we expect unpaid overtime, then you swipe the fucking biscuits and head for the door immediately. Trying to rush a decision out of you once the offer is made. I once interviewed with a company where I would have been relocating across the country to work for them. There were 3 rounds of interviews and they left me completely in the dark for weeks on end between each round before inviting me to the next round within just a few days of when the interview would take place. After the final interview, it was over a month of silence from them until they made an offer but told me I had less than 24 hours to let them know my decision. I would have been moving 2,000 miles away from home to a place I had never been or even seen before. Interviews were completely virtual. They wanted me to start 6 days after the offer had been made. When I asked if there was any flexibility for me to have more time to think it over or have more time to move out there, they said no. They needed the decision the next day, and if I accepted, I would be starting in less than a week. I declined the offer. In other words, they hired someone other than you, who quit or was fired, and they needed to replace them as soon as possible. Which honestly is not necessarily a red flag. I've been hired in such a way in the past, but it was just that they had a very important project about to start. The dude in charge had vacations planned, and they'd heard enough about me that they knew I could take it over smoothly. But of course, if they want you to start ASAP in a job where you shouldn't be that essential, it probably means they overwork their staff or that they don't want you to do too much due diligence before accepting. I've read a lot of these, and this is objectively a red flag compared to some that are more just personal red flags. Glad you declined the offer. There's a misery wall when walking into work. When you pass a certain point in the building, the feeling changes significantly. If you know, you know. Yes. I was interviewing at Wayfair, in the corporate office. I was in their normal waiting room, everything was fine and dandy. Then I was sent to sit outside an office near the back of the place where my interviews were going to be held. I sat there 3 minutes, looked around at people, had a sense of dread, and left. I walked out and told the receptionist I can't do this here. It's not what I want, and left. I got called 3 times after that asking if I wanted to reschedule. They seemed way desperate. If the job description has a nondescriptively massive salary range, $25,000 to $100,000. So many insurance sales jobs like this. This is a commission-only role. No base salary, but top performers can expect to make $150K plus. Salary range, $30,000, $250,000. Any job ad that doesn't mention the name of the company should raise suspicions, doubly so if it's anything to do with sales. Got done by that trick once. Turned up to the interview and the job was going door to door selling vacuums for Kirby vacuums. Ugh, fell for this once. Answered an ad for an office administrative assistant. Turned out to be selling crappy knockoff toys door to door. And the guy I was paired with was assigned a commercial area, so he pulls up to an auto shop ready to try to sell these mechanics this shit. I went, hey, the train station is over there, I'm going home. He tried to argue, I just walked off. Scammers. Anything that the manager says in the interview that doesn't line up with the job description. Yay, we posted it's a manager level position, but this is actually a coordinator role. Yay, the description says travel is 25%, but it might be closer to 50%, it just depends. We did post it as a remote job, but we prefer people to be in the office X days a week. Yay, we phrase it that way in the job description because corporate says we have to. All of those are red flags. Anything a company is vague about should be a red flag. Once we advertise this as a full-time permanent position, but every hire begins as a 1-year contract so we can get to know you. I've got no issue with a probationary period, but if you're only prepared to do a 1-year contract with a possibility of full-time, put that in the ad. The sink or swim technique. It was my first day as a cashier. I got a couple of hours of training, then I was by myself and we were dead. All of a sudden this rush came in and I was asking for help. The manager goes, sink or swim, we're busy back here, figure it out. Lol, I did, but let me tell you, customers were not happy because I still didn't know how to properly enter in orders, especially modifications. I had the same happen to me at Lowe's. I was put up in customer service without any training, all on my own. I straight up told customers that I didn't know how to process their return transaction, make special orders, do internet fulfillment because it was my first day and I had received no training. I called a manager over and the manager received some feedback from the customers. Happened to me a couple years ago working for 7 to 11. Got hired, my first day the manager left me by myself on the overnight shift. The only thing I was told was how to open the register and that the delivery truck was coming at 2 a.m. I then got reprimanded for not doing things that I was never told to do. I quit after a week, LMFAO. That happened to me working some crazy food truck run by Russians. They showed me their convoluted system once, like to ring up a poutine you'd put in 2 burgers and -3 cokes to get to the price of a poutine because they didn't program the cache properly. Then they just left me there. Finished the day and just walked on out into the sunset, never to return. Lol. Those receipts must have been insane to make any sense of. I always ask the question, why is this role open? Is it a new role, or am I replacing someone? Why did that person leave? This really helps you seeing their reaction, and if they look nervous, it's because the person who left did it because they were not happy. I also like asking how senior my team members are. If there's no one there more than 2 years, I would also be concerned. Final question. As I work in sales, I always ask what's the KPIs and how many are actually hitting their quarterly and annual target? This also reveals if they set their targets too high, and you can expect to enter a grim working culture where you're never good enough and can always do better. Last one, I like asking about how they are working to establish a team culture as well, since this will tell you a lot if people at work are friends or just there to do their job. These are the questions which I asked in an interview a few months ago, considering Reddit had mentioned this so many times. It's very important who you ask. So the very first round, just after understanding the position, ask the recruiter how many rounds it'll be and who you'll be talking to. It's especially important that this question is asked to your potential direct manager. So, I asked these questions in the interview to the manager, and he said the whole team had gotten a promotion. I thought this is extremely good considering they take internal growth seriously. Then he says they took promotions in other companies and basically moved out, lol. I still ended up taking the interview till the last round just to see what kind of people run the place. When the potential manager told that this was his second day and told he didn't know what he was doing and was asking questions from a website, I decided to run for my life. I went on an interview. They had me wait in the lobby. In the 5 minutes I was sitting there, 3 employees walked past me. The first just looked at me and laughed. The second said, "Leave. Leave while you can." The third made the sign of the cross at me. Later, during the interview, the hiring manager showed me the Zen room, which was a quiet room you got to go to for 10 minutes when you got too stressed out. I was offered the job. I declined. Edit. They walked by separately, at different times. You had to ask permission to use the Zen room. I have a Zen room at my job. It's called a stall in the public restroom. It's my crying stall. In food service we use the walk-in cooler for this. It's oddly comforting. When they say, or try to make you sign, anything pertaining to not discussing your wages with other employees, that shit is illegal, and it screams that people aren't being fairly compensated for their work. I've literally up and walked the fuck out of jobs for this. Competitive pay, but they won't tell you what the pay actually is in the posting or even the interview. Competitive pay. Translation: your salary will be competing against your bills. I interviewed once at a very huge organization that had a site in the town I was living in, and these guys were so proud of the new top-of-the-line facilities. When they took me on a tour, they pointed out the lovely Zen garden area that was made for employees to go unwind and clear their heads. The problem with it was this area was positioned directly across from all the higher UPS offices. Yeah. No. A similar one. They had an employee break area with games, TVs, snack machines, etc., but it was completely empty, in the middle of the day. Looked like no one had used it in weeks. I had the fortune of working for 2 companies with areas like these that did actually get used. It was really motivational to feel like they trusted you to manage your time so that your work was done well and on time, and also spend a few minutes every now and then playing a round or 2 at the arcade or whatever. One even had a soundproof room with a drum set, guitar, bass, mic, etc. Went there a few times. Once ran into a manager from another project who was heading there, and he asked me if I had a few minutes to play with him. He needed someone on guitar. Pretty cool place, as companies go. I've seen workplaces with these kinds of things. Basically they exist to give employees a break, but when the workplaces already guilt trip you into not taking those breaks, no one uses them. And anyone that does, all other employees look at them as if they're lazy and whatnot. Oh, this is so accurate. I worked for a company that was turning me into one of those individuals that looked down at other employees because they took their hard-earned vacation. I quit when I realized I was becoming an asshole. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily uploads. After you've done that, check out one of our other videos.